I gotta warn you, this is gonna be a long one. Not this particular video, but all of them put together. Yeah, because I like to yak about technology anyway. The key to digital transformation is not just have a strategy, but a better strategy. So the first question is why should we do it and why haven't we? And the pragmatic reasons are you have to do it because it's become kind of mandatory. It's become an essential part of just about every business. So it's a best practice. Not only that, it's profitable. It's a disruption in pretty much in every industry. And not only that, but customers have a certain dissatisfaction. You know, if you don't offer them the best and somebody else is, they're not going to be happy with you. It's gotten a lot of buzz, essentially, in turn. People want to understand it. People realize they have to go do it. So as you could see, even just over the last 4 or 5 years, people wanting to understand digital transformation has become pretty high. It's everywhere. Talk about any business and it's out there. It's kind of interesting because a student who worked for me, his family owned a sod farm. And actually now he's working here at ASU. He graduated, got his master's, worked for a while, and now he's come back to the university to work. But anyway, I asked him, say, how's the family farm? And he said, oh, it's great. And I said, did you ever fix those manpower issues? He said, oh yeah, we got rid of everybody. We got robots. And so when you think about sod and rolling up these big pieces of ground, a robot, you have 5 people can do one piece at a time. A robot does 5 at once. Not only that, the robot can pick up these, you need a couple of people to pick up these big heavy pieces of sod. So instead, a robot just comes along and grabs 5 of them at the same time. A robot doesn't get tired. A robot doesn't complain about it's too hot. And a robot can work 24 hours a day. But no matter what industry you want to talk about, gas and electric, pharmaceutical, services, travel, automaking, banking, whatever, digital transformation is in all of them. And so here's an example of what the EBITDA is for these industries based on assets. 87% of the people or companies believe that it's going to create a disruption. However, only 44% of the people are preparing for it. It's like being told the fire's coming and only 44% of the people are actually taking into account. 52% of Fortune 500 companies are gone now since 2000. The ones that disappeared, they either went bankrupt, were acquired, or shut down. The 48% have hired digital masters to lead transformation. 26% of those companies are more profitable than their competition, and 9% the conservative companies have basically relied on their leadership over someone else. So that's a stark contrast. You could try to survive, but as you can see, the numbers start to get pretty slim. The tech touches all industries. Now, when we look at the return on investment for businesses that do digital work and don't do digital work, as you can see, the digital aspects are pretty high. And yet, only 28% of companies has successfully made the transformation over the last 20 years. And it's like, gee, why is this going on? Well, part of it is the size of the bet is pretty large. When you look at the percentage of total revenue, now you look at it, it's like 0.5% or something like that. It's like, what's the big deal about that? But when you look at these numbers, they're actually quite large. It's quite, and here's another graph showing the level of expenses based on industry. Naturally, telecommunications, which the entire thing is digital, naturally is going to be a lot more expensive. One of the hardest things about making a digital transformation is you're not talking about transforming a department or something like that. When you make this change, it has to change your DNA of your company. It has to include everyone. Even people who say, well, it doesn't affect me. And it could be somebody like in finance or something like that. All I care about is my financial systems. But the point is, for one way or another, you're going to use it. It's going to act on you. Meaning if somebody else is using it, eventually it's going to diffuse on you, because we have knowledge-based companies, and not only that, integrated companies, or you're going to be a recipient from it. It defines your culture, and it has to be part of your DNA. This is why the Big Five is the Big Five. They're totally ingrained in digital transformation and continued transformation. Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, they're all the same. So it's such a great imperative. Why haven't people changed? It's scary. And so what are they afraid of? Risk. And risk is probability times impact. And where that probability becomes scary in terms of trying to predict it is the uncertainty. You don't know what it is. And part of the problem is that tech changes every 9 to 18 months. Those changes are too large and too fast that people don't know what to think of it. Not only that, people don't have enough insight into what it is, and so they don't know how to capitalize on it. And in terms of impact, how big a bet do you have to make? And so that bet could be as large as 0.5% of revenue. So for GE, that's a $600 million bet. Not only that, but if you have to dedicate your entire organization to this, then guess what? They're not going to have time for something else. And so that's another huge bet you're putting down. Now, in terms of perception, as you can see, those who believe it's a great opportunity is much higher than those who think it's a potential threat. The hard reality is this is why it's about pain. We value pain even though the values might be exactly the same, like I'm risk losing $1 versus risk making $1. Pain has a 3x effect than gain does. And that's why we're more likely to act on pain than gain. Some of the most common excuses people make about why they don't move into digital more quickly is they don't want to lose a human touch. They're a human-driven business. That is a misconception, and it's a misconception for the simple reason people don't care about personalization specifically. I mean, a human touch specifically. What they care about is personalization and convenience. Nobody wants to stand in a line so they can talk to a teller unless you have something very specific that you need to ask that teller. Everybody's comfortable using an ATM. And so on and so forth. So what it comes down to is, do you really understand what the customer is acting on? Some people think that all this stuff has already hit a limit, that it's not going to get much better. And, like when the iPhone 10 came out, they said, oh, that's it. This is the best iPhone ever. And that's totally wrong, too. What it comes down to is AI and machine learning just keeps pushing the limits of the technology, so there is no slowdown. Now, we know that if you have too much structure, you don't have as much creativity. And so they're saying, well, if you make this uniform structure all the way around the company, then, well, it's going to stifle our creativity. And that's not true either. Why? Yes, you have an underlying network in your digitization. However, each division has its own specialized software, its application programming interfaces. And so because those are all different, that's how you maintain your individuality. And finally, it's like, well, we're going to lose our assets. And so somebody like the Yellow Pages, in this case, it's the French Yellow Pages, they thought, oh, we're going to lose all our printing presses and stuff like that. These are a lot of assets we're going to have to retire. Well, then they realized that's only one of our assets. A bigger asset we actually have are our customers. And that's when you think about all the companies that pay for the yellow pages. They said, we're going to move to digital. And we know that's scary for you, but we're going to offer you services on how to advertise effectively in digital. And so it actually became a money-making opportunity. Another reason why digitization doesn't take place, it's bad managers. What the people you have to deal with, and you might already be dealing with this at work, is Dr. No, and that's that they don't understand it. They have a very narrow view of their business. Like, for example, if you make automobiles, you're thinking, we're car makers. What do we care about software and RAM and things like that? These are people who don't also understand what they have. And that's that they could put in a digital system and they could just have it do menial tasks. And the problem is that now you've got a Learjet replacing your Honda. You have to deal with Ms. I don't know, and that's that if I just wait it out, it'll go away. And a lot of people take that attitude in corporations. And there's Mr. I don't care. They watch digital and they think, wow, that's really cool. Okay, I'm going back to work now. So the CEO is supposed to lead. So why doesn't he commit to it? Well, first of all, he may not understand it. Short term, his emphasis typically is short term. Digital is a long-term play. So it's like, when is there a good time to get started? There's never a good time to get started for them. And not only that, but if they're short timers, then they think, I'm never going to get the benefit of this, so why should I build it up? However, the things that we see is that people resist the idea of digital transformation. And if you think more into it, there's actually opportunity. For example, MDs in telemedicine. MDs are scared to death about all these software programs that are going to diagnose you without them. And so they're afraid software is going to take the place of physicians. The thing they're not thinking about is that software is a tool. You don't get away from a physician. Dr. Cho might have told you this story, and if I did, I apologize. But when I worked in the biomedical business, I had proposed virtual nurse. I had proposed a whole suite of sensors that would monitor all your vitals and things like that, and you wouldn't need a nurse anymore. All the data recording would go into a cloud service, and you wouldn't need nurses anymore, and that would solve the problem of the nursing shortage. So after I proposed it, then I got everybody excited about it. Then I got in front of like the VP of engineering and people like that, and I said, I'm canceling my project. That didn't go over too well, and they said, why are you killing your project? And I said, because I realized something. Nurses are incredibly intuitive, meaning they're the ones who see you hour after hour. They're the ones who could tell that if your skin is getting paler, if your behavior is different, that's something that these algorithms can't do. And so therefore, taking them out of the equation is losing a very big chunk of healthcare. Driverless trucks. Well, that's the last thing truck drivers want to hear, and that's like they're going to be replaced. But what it comes down to is if something new is coming in, there's an opportunity somewhere else. And that's that maybe these driverless trucks are going to need companion riders. So there might be an opportunity there. And then the second thing that you have to think about is anything in transportation is going to need maintenance. And so this is where re-educating yourself would be really useful. Now for pharma salesmen, these people make money off of commission. The last thing they want to do is having digital software replace that. But again, it's a tool. The thing is, digital allows you scale. All of a sudden, you can come up with contacts and understanding of customers that you never had before. And so, You see a lot of analogies right now with digital transformation and the dot-com boom. And that's that nobody understands the implication or the business model. When the dot-com boom came out, people just thought, oh, wait, oh boy, it's a new way to sell. And all they use the internet for is just a new channel for selling. And it's so much more than that. And that's what we've seen today. But the one thing to look at is Maslow. And that's that when you look at the change in Maslow's hierarchy, that's pretty much the route that new digital businesses follow. In terms of business model, this is called the business model canvas. Some of you have may seen this before. But these are the activities you think about in defining a business. And that's that, how do you create value? And that's through your partner's activities and key resources. How do you deliver to the customer? And finally, financially, what it is that can you capture? When we look at the migration from physiological needs all the way up to self-actualization, you can see where the dot-com boom followed along. That started out in e-commerce, went to B2B. So what happened is they say, oh, this e-commerce stuff is safe. Okay, now I'm ready to risk it. The businesses tend to lack individuals. Love and belonging was about social media. And so you can see where digital is transforming along. And in the next lecture, I will talk about, it's not about strategy for digital, it's about digital strategy.